Welcome back to Booktalks Podcast. This is Kayla,
And Marissa.
and this week we read The It Girl by Ruth Ware, which for me, as a non-thriller lover, I really liked.
Good. I'm glad you liked it because I wasn't super sure with all the back and forth before and afters that you'd like it. So I'm glad it had a happy ending and you liked
So spoiler warning, we're gonna spoil it. I don't know how to talk about a thriller without spoiling it. I was gonna text you actually yesterday who I thought the killer was throughout the book, but then I was like, well, what if I ruin it for her? Like, I won't do that. For the longest time, I thought it was Will. Like up until they were like so around 80% of the book, when she thought it was Will, I had to Google it because my anxiety could not handle it anymore. I couldn't do it. I
it.
had to know what happened.
Oh my gosh.
I felt
You
so out of control. I like needed to know.
you were so close to finding out and you just broke down.
Well, I was like on the train. I'm in DC. I was on the train to DC, and I was like, I feel like I had no control of my life. There was this little yappy dog next to me that would not stop crying, and I'm like listening to this book, and I'm like, okay, I can't. I need to know if it's Will because if it's Will, I'm gonna just cry because I really was rooting for them. The whole book, I was rooting for Will and Hannah.
I wasn't necessarily rooting for them because I think it's kind of weird she got together with her dead best friend's boyfriend. But at the end, when he came for her after their big fight and came to save her, I was like, oh my gosh, he has to live. They have to get back together.
I felt like they always loved each other though, even like they had like these
Mhm.
longing looks from the beginning, and I think he just was manipulated by April.
Oh, yeah. And I think Ruth Ware likes to write that. I don't know if you'd call it a trope or what, but kind of that manipulation girl. She has that girl in all her books, I feel like, who manipulates people and gets them to fall for her. And you don't hate her, but you kind of hate her. Like she's the victim, but you also kind of hate her.
When we started reading it, I didn't like the dynamic between Hannah and April because I hate that like trope of like nerdy girl who like doesn't feel like she belongs, and like the popular it girl pulls her into the circle and then like turns the nerdy girl into someone who she's not. And I thought where it was going.
Uh-huh.
And especially when like we found out that like she was like married to April's ex, I was like, oh, like she just became the it girl herself, but
Uh-huh.
like very um Mean Girls, how like they I forget who is the main girl and who's Lindsay Lohan playing Mean Girls.
Caddy or Katie?
Yeah, like
Katie.
how Katie Heron became like basically Regina. Like I didn't like that. I don't like
Hmm.
that trope. Um, but it didn't turn into that. I am still sad that she didn't enroll back in school.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like whenever she's
But
like Googling for like when in the last chapter she's like, I'm gonna Google for the one like the 5 words I wanted to Google for years. I thought she'd be like
uh
how to get back to college or something like that.
yeah, I feel like that would have been a better, honestly, that would have been better. I didn't even think about that. When she said she was going to Google the 5 words, I wasn't sure what she was going to Google, but I was super disappointed by what she Googled. I was like, that had no significance at all.
I would have loved if she went back to like Oxford. I love dark. It's not even like this is dark academia, but I love academia. The thought of going to Oxford would just be incredible. Um, so I really like that part of the whole story. And I actually love reading the before.
Okay.
That
Okay.
was my favorite part until I was like, who murdered her? But um, no, I really like this book.
Yeah. So I saw it coming. Who did it? The whole book I knew. And I was telling my mom, I was like, Mom, there are like 10 hours left. I know who did it. 8 hours left. I know who did it. 6 hours left. I know who did it. But my only thing was I didn't know how he pulled it off because it was impossible. I was like, it's not possible that he could have done it. And so I thought the way she tied in the pranks and then he used the prank against her to kill her, I was like, that was perfect, Ruth Ware. Great job.
I didn't see it coming. I really thought it was Will. Because he was like so against her finding out.
Hmm.
But also he had like a mean streak sometimes, like he kind of like would lose his temper sometimes, and he
True.
had the motive like she was cheating on him for all semester with his best friend.
True. I knew it wasn't Will because Ruth Ware never makes it the husband. There's generally always a husband in her books, and he's always like very doting and loves his wife so much, and then gets suspicious of his wife. Like, why are you doing this so much? Why are you obsessed with it? Just back off. And I was like, okay, it's just a normal Ruth Ware husband. It's not Will.
No, I did not see it coming. What gave it you away that it was Hugh?
Honestly, just because I knew it wasn't anyone else. And I know that sounds so stupid, but like I knew it wasn't going to be Will because of all the reasons I just said. Like he was the husband. Ruth Ware doesn't ever make it the husband because I think it's too obvious when it's the husband. And then I knew it wasn't the only person I briefly considered it could be was Emily because I felt like of all the people, she had the biggest motive because the it girl was sleeping with her boyfriend, who she really liked. And then her boyfriend got the it girl pregnant and all that stuff. But when it came out that they were suspecting Emily with 4 hours left, I was like, okay, it's not Emily because there's too much time left for it to be Emily. And then I didn't think it was Ryan. He just like wasn't on my radar. He had an alibi. I was like, it's not Ryan. But I was like, Hugh makes the most sense because it can't possibly be him. Therefore, it will be him.
I was like, what if it's Hannah?
I I I won't give away which book she did that in, but she did that in one book where she made it the main character.
I like debated it because she was so like she couldn't get over this like trauma. Like 10 years has passed and she can't get over it. And I was like, that's a guilty conscience.
Yeah.
No, he was smart. It was crazy how she wrapped it all together. I was kind of blown away. I'm mad at myself that I looked up the answer, but I don't know if I would have been able to like get through the book. The book was really long.
So long. Audiobook was 17 hours. Like,
Like
excuse me?
I listened on 2.5 speed and which I never do. I listened to like two the max and I was like, okay, let's go. Like, can we keep going?
Uh-huh.
Like
Well,
I wasn't bored with it though, but and I don't think parts were unnecessary. It just seemed really long.
I do think some parts were unnecessary, and I it's funny because I literally said this last night to my mom. I was midnight when I finished, and I went out. I was like, "Mom, are you still up? I have to talk about this right now." So I went out. I think it's like a British writer thing. I've noticed a lot of these thrillers that are written by British writers, like Lisa Jewell and then Ruth Ware, and then I've read a couple others. They throw in these extra details and I don't know. Like, this is a dumb example, but sometimes they will literally describe like the downtown city and the streets. Like, I turned left on 32nd, then I walked 2 blocks, and I turned right on 7th, and then I hailed a taxi, and then I didn't get. And it's like this doesn't aid the story at all, and it's just something I've noticed with British writers. They're very wordy. I thought all the scenes where she was going to the doctor, getting her blood pressure checked. I was like, I get you're trying to tell us she's stressed out, but you spent like 3 doctor's visits on this.
Yeah. I was wondering why she needed to be pregnant. Like what? But I
Why
guess
was
it
that
kind of
necessary?
I think it wrapped together how April was pregnant when she died.
Good point.
And the whole like this could have been April if she lived, but I don't think her and Will would end up together.
No, April was too manipulative. Like, she may not have ended up with anyone ever, honestly.
I think he had one foot at the door with her. He was already
Oh,
kind of macking on her best friend, and that was gonna blow
mhm.
up in their faces. No, I did like I love so I feel like the friend group, the six of them were very like Breakfast Club group. Like there was the princess and the nerd and like the jock and the rebel and like everyone kind of had their like stereotype. Like I feel like she played so much into each of the people's like the golden boy. Like she made each of the six very different and how they were kind
Yep.
of like this group of like mutts together. I was weirded out that there was a teacher's rooms across the hall. Like when does that like what?
I don't know. And two, like, come on, he's hosting parties of mostly just girls and then taking girls out to the bar. Like, someone would have shut that down. This didn't happen that long ago. It's not like this book was set in the 80s. She was killed in 2012. So I'm like, that's weird.
It was before social media, so I could see like getting away with it. Um, but I just thought it was weird that like there was rooms in the colleges. I guess I when this reminds me back to like Discovery Witches because I feel like everything goes back to that and how it's based in Oxford as well. And like they have the colleges. And I guess like it's just different how like we have colleges here where you're like saying like a different college, but like it's not like where you're be all end all. Like it's just like where you take classes, most of your classes at. Whereas like I feel like the colleges in Oxford are like you live in these colleges, you take classes in this college. Like this is it. Like these are your colleges.
Yeah, it's
Um,
like a culture, a whole different culture that we have.
like I actually was Googling like Oxford colleges because I was actually seeing if this one was like a real one or like did she just make this up? Because in Discovery Witches, All Souls is as like prestigious as she writes it to be.
Okay.
Um, and like New College, I think was I forgot which one that Diana was a part of, but Oxford just sounds so cool. Like I would love to get like a degree and a like degree from Oxford, but like, what am I gonna go back for accounting? Like
Well, I was gonna say when you said this early about her not going back to school, I thought it was really funny that Will became an accountant and then she worked in a bookstore, and I was like, is that representative of us?
I was talking to my writing class and I was like, I just wanted there to be like a rom-com about an accountant. Like that's all I want. And they're like, but there's movies about accountants. Like The Accountant. I was like, but that's not really about an accountant. And they're like, what do you want in this movie? And I was like, I haven't thought this far. I'm like, I just know I want something to be an accountant. And they're like, you need to give us something more.
Accountants need better representation. Like, come on.
Well, and I was a little offended because Emily was like mad at Will for like using his Oxford education to be an accountant. I was like, I'm insulted. Like
It's a hard job. Excuse you, Emily.
I was like, okay. No, I'm actually considering I would just move to DC actually. It's so beautiful. Maybe I'll move to Oxford. I need to see Oxford and maybe I'll move there.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if I like it or not. It sounds like when they describe the room as having a fireplace. I know people love fireplaces in their room, but to me that just sounds so old-timey. And I'm like, I don't want to live in like an old, out-of-dated facility.
You
Like
had
I
a
want,
fireplace in your bedroom.
I know, and I also had a mouse.
I love a cat home that has character. Um,
Uh-huh.
so I think I would be fine with that. I feel like just like my friend's townhouse actually is perfect. It has like the brick wall still, but it's like modern, like kitchen appliances and like new floors, and it's like a perfect combo of like homey and
Mhm.
old fashioned, but also modern. I like that. I don't want like a brand new modern house that just looks like everyone on the row. I want some character.
Speaking of the row, Ned died in jail.
I didn't, he deserved, he was so freaking creepy.
Oh, absolutely. When she at the end was feeling guilty, like looking him up and being like, I'm sorry that I let you down. I'm like, he he had issues. I'm not sorry that he's gone.
When he tackled her, it was like grinding his bits
Yep.
into her, I was like,
Mhm.
he can get arrested right then and there.
He should have been arrested. And I'm so mad that like no one believed her, or they believed her but didn't take any action on anything.
I was almost like I understand why she put him as that character to kind of give it like probable reason that it would be him, but also like I wish she resolved that differently. Like I wish they believed her then. Like I didn't like the whole dynamic when she's in the room with her like advisor. I thought it was him too. I thought he was sleeping with April.
He could have been sleeping with April. Probably was.
So April and Hugh knew each other beforehand.
Yeah, so that's when it all came out. She was using him. No,
She was blackmailing him.
she was blackmailing him. She was getting drugs and he hired someone to take a test for him so he could get into Oxford.
Her
So,
through her though.
yeah, through her. So, in return, he had to supply her drugs. And yeah, he was being blackmailed.
And do
And
anything for her. Like I remember
anything.
she'd always be like, "Get me this," and like he would just do it.
I love that Ruth Ware though made him like a nice guy so that you kind of just thought like there are parts where I was like, I think he's just probably in love with her and that's why he does whatever she says. Um,
I
I
thought so
definitely didn't
too.
I didn't see blackmail coming with that.
Or like whenever Hannah sees him for like kind of the first time where she's like, we don't even know anything about you. Like we just know everything about everybody else. Like we just don't care enough about you. And I am like, yeah, like we don't. Like he's just such a nice guy. Like he's Will's best friend.
So nice. And I kind of like the nerdy nice guy type. Like when he held the door open for the girls and they like made fun of him and Hannah was like, "Thank you, Hugh." Like it was so sad and I was like, "Oh, Hugh, why do you have to be a murderer?"
I don't know how Will forgave her for blaming him for murder.
I I think probably because he recognized that Hugh was manipulating her
A lot.
and because he listened on the phone to everything Hugh had said and thank goodness he recorded it, but like, is that really realistic? No. But still, Hugh had
Yeah.
said, like, I pointed you towards Will, like you wouldn't stop. So I pointed you towards Will so you'd stop. So maybe Will was like, okay, he manipulated her. I can forgive her.
I mean, I'm glad they ended up together. Like, I would have been really upset they didn't. But, um, no, I really liked them together. I was rooting for them, like, whenever they were playing strip poker and she came out of her room and she wanted to kiss Will and then she found him with April, that would have just broke my heart.
I knew it was gonna happen. I as soon as she was like, I'm gonna go out there, I'm like, don't go out there, don't go out there. You don't want to see what you're gonna see. Because I just knew I've read enough of these. I knew it was gonna be like that. And I hate that Will didn't wait for her. I hate that he got manipulated into being with April because it's
But I feel
like
like he liked her
he liked Hannah,
from the
but
beginning.
April made her move on him first, and he was like, whatever, I'll just go with the pretty vivacious April.
I just wish he would have finished college.
Oh, you want her to go back as a single mom, not single mom, but as a mom,
I hope her
bring her to.
baby's all right. You know, it is. I forgot because he kind of like hit the gun with the child.
I know. He hit the gun with the child. That's what you just said.
Hit the child, the stomach with the gun. Um, Whenever she's driving to the funeral and holding Emily's hand, and oh, because the like Will's body went limp, and then it switches right to Emily in the cab, Emily and Hannah in the cab holding hands. And she's like, "Will should be here." I'm like, I'm throwing this book against the wall. I'm going to lose it. This is getting a 2 star from me.
I was so upset. And then when it ends and they announce that the funeral's for Hugh, I literally went back and re-listened because I was like, did I hear it wrong? Like she was saying Will's not here because of Hugh. I was like, what's going on? I was like, oh my gosh, we got played.
I re-listened as well. I was like, what the fuck? And then, excuse my language. And then and then she's at the hospital, and I was like, oh.
Thank goodness. No,
Uh,
I really am glad they got back together because I've read some of these types of thrillers where the relationship gets so damaged because like the girl's accusing the guy or the guy's accusing the girl, but then they end up breaking up. And it's like it's so frustrating because you know they love each other and it was just a moment of doubt. But I mean, if you really think your husband could be a murderer, like he didn't have a good alibi, he had the motive, he was kind of violent. I could see like having some questions, like I don't know. I could see it happening.
my first suspect was Hannah. Second one was Will. Never suspected you. And then the teacher.
Yeah,
And
the
that was it.
teacher.
That's who I thought. Um, I knew it couldn't be Neville because that would just be too easy. Although I
Yeah.
do think that'd be a really cool thriller because imagine like we're on this like suspenseful journey for like hours, and then she's like, "Just kidding, it was Neville all along." Like what?
I feel like I'd feel very let down. It'd have to be a really solid twist, like that we didn't see coming, because I feel like I'd be like, oh, so it's just him the whole time? Oh, okay.
I don't really feel that bad for April because she kind of did it to herself with these pranks.
It was mean.
Like her
Uh,
pranks were not okay. If somebody did a prank like that with me, like I don't know how I think I would have stopped being her friend.
yeah, like some of her pranks, honestly, like the flushing the marijuana down the toilet was kind of funny. I mean, maybe she should have stopped it before he flushed $100 down the toilet, but that wasn't super harmful. And then she paid him back, so like whatever. But the one, like some of the other ones,
Emily's one where she like gave that letter, like I think I would have got a heart attack.
oh, I would have ended the friendship for sure.
Like, and then you find out like she's also sleeping with your boyfriend. Like,
Yeah. And then too, I think like what was April gonna do after, say the last prank had gone how she wanted it to, where she pretends to be dead and they're like, oh, Hannah, you look so stupid. How are they gonna move on from that? Because the reason she was pulling that prank was because she knew Will and Hannah had kissed. And
I
so
didn't
it's
think she
like,
knew they kissed. I think they just had tension.
yeah, because Hugh said it was obvious by the end that they were like into each other.
Which that's fine. And I feel like if April was a good friend, she'd been like, I don't even like Will that much. Like, go for it.
Yeah. No,
I
because
don't
she
think she
didn't.
did.
She was literally sleeping with Ryan on the side. So,
I don't feel bad for April in the end. I just wanted Hannah to move on from it.
okay, one thing I hated was that they named the sister November.
November, oh, April, November.
April and November. At first, I thought November, like, oh, she's probably like this exotic model and she has this great stage name. And then when I started thinking about it, I was like, April's a month and November's a month.
I wonder
How
was it's the
stupid.
more month they were born in.
The parents got super creative with that one.
Well, and also surprised because like beginning of the book, April describes her dad as not caring about her, doesn't even like write her like cards goodbye, and then in the end it says that he died because of the stress of April passing, and I was like, but he didn't even care.
Yeah, I mean, we only saw it through April's point of view of her saying, he didn't care. She might have just been a salty little teenage girl.
And then I guess you wonder because she kind of was an attention-seeking person because her father didn't pay attention to her, and you wonder if she would have pulled those pranks if she wasn't so attention deprived.
Yeah. Oh, you're blaming the father for all this.
Psychoanalyzing it all. Um, yeah. Well, who was it that pointed fingers at Was Neville? Is it Neil or Neville?
Ned?
Ned.
Ned?
Neville, Ned. Um, when I think it might have been Hugh saying that I thought he was looking for you, kind of putting the blame on her. Was it him or was it
What a
Ryan?
shitty thing to say. No, I'm pretty sure it was Hugh.
He's so manipulative, and he was a doctor.
So manipulative. Literally, when he said that to her, I was like, you asshole.
Because
Because
you knew at that point, I didn't know it was him.
I totally knew, especially when he said that, I just felt like it was him just manipulating her further and making her feel worse and worse about it. And I like, he was getting ex- whatever. He was getting off on it. I just hated him. I just like that was so terrible to say to her.
I felt like maybe he had some remorse, but then whenever Will showed up at the cliff and he just started laughing, I was like, he's pretended to be their friend for years.
I felt like he really didn't want to kill Hannah. I almost felt like maybe he even loved Hannah, like back in college. And then when Will showed up, I was like, nah, he's just psychotic.
When
Maybe
the
he's
laugh did it to me.
what is it called when they can't feel anything, like a sociopath?
When you have multiple different personalities.
I don't know, but maybe he had some kind of disorder like that.
We had two of. He was nuts. Um, but yeah, I really like the book. I give it like a 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, it was good. 4.3 probably.
I
Um,
am so thrillered out. Like, man.
a lot of murder back to back.
Well, I think we're reading The Husbands next. Or was it? Is it The Husbands? What is it
The
called?
husbands.
What's
What?
what's the one we're reading with the blue cover?
Oh, My Summer Darlings?
Oh, I don't know what I thought about the husband. Did she write another book about husbands?
The Hunting Wives.
Oh, I knew it was some type of spouse. Um, so we're reading My Summer Darling next, but I don't think it's next. I think it's like ahead, but like as a thriller, that's what our list. And then we're also reading The Fourth Good Guide to Murder.
I need to hire that. Wait, hire that.
Gonna hire that one too.
Is it the fourth in the series or is it going to be a new series?
I think it
Yeah.
might be a new series. I forget the details. I just saw it was by her and I was like instantly in my cart.
Also, I thought the cover looked almost identical to the other covers. I was like, she clearly uses the same cover artist on all of these.
I was like, take my money. I don't really care what this is about.
Well, I've got to go hire that.
Okay, I guess we're signing off. But as a romance reader, I sign off on this one and I recommend it for sure. Um,
Wow, big praise.
big praise. Ruth Ware might be my favorite thriller writer.
She's one of my tops as well, so we can agree on that.
You know what my favorite part about this book was? that there was
No.
no cult in it.
Ah, yes. Just wait for the sequel when it turns out their little Breakfast Club clique was actually a cult.
I can see Will being a cult leader for sure.
Will or
Yeah,
Hugh?
Will.
Oh, dang. All right.
He has that golden boy charm.
The charisma.
Yeah. Yeah, but thanks for listening. This is Kayla.
And Marissa.
And make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Booktalks Podcast and follow Marissa's new blog at
www.sidecharacterenergy.com.
Have a good night.